Welcome to Taiwan Tech Dispatch. This is a podcast where we explore Taiwan's technology ecosystem, its startups, its economic shifts, and how all of that connects to global innovation and geopolitics. I'm your host, White Shoe. Today's episode is about a startup that raised money in one of the most difficult fundraising environments Taiwan has seen in years. But interestingly, this story is not really about real estate. It's about data, and more specifically, what investors now believe data infrastructure can become in traditional industries. This is episode 45. FunRaise and the Rise of Data-Driven PropTech. Chapter 1. A startup that raised money in a tough market. Taiwan's startup fundraising environment has been difficult recently. Investors have become cautious. Valuations are harder to justify. And many founders are discovering that raising capital in 2025 and 2026 feels very different from the easy money years during the pandemic era. That's why one recent fundraising story stood out. A startup called FunRaise, founded in April 2025, closed an angel round worth roughly 100 million Taiwanese dollars only 5 months after launch. That is approximately 3.1 million US dollars. And again, this happened in a cautious market. Naturally, people began asking, what exactly are investors seeing here? Because FunRaise is not building a consumer AI app. It is not another generative AI wrapper. And it is not operating inside one of the currently fashionable sectors. Instead, the company chose something much less glamorous: commercial real estate. Chapter 2. This is not a real estate story. At first glance, commercial real estate may sound like an unusual place for venture capital excitement, especially in Taiwan. Because Taiwan's commercial property market is not exactly booming right now. Office rental growth has been relatively flat. Vacancy rates have been rising in several areas, and investment activity has become more conservative as capital searches for stable yield instead of aggressive expansion. And the strongest areas today are mostly logistics infrastructure, industrial parks, and AI-related data center demand. Traditional office towers are not the growth story anymore. So if the market itself is not exploding upward, why did investors become interested? The answer is important. Because investors are not betting on the rent curve. They are betting on the data curve. Chapter 3: The Real Bet: Fragmented Data. For decades, Taiwan's commercial real estate ecosystem accumulated enormous amounts of information. Lease records, property transactions, facility management data, construction services, operational histories. But almost all of this information lives inside disconnected silos. Different firms, different formats, different workflows, different systems. In many ways, this resembles what happened in manufacturing before industrial digitization. The information existed, but it was fragmented, difficult to integrate, and therefore difficult to transform into intelligence. FunRaise appears to be targeting exactly this inefficiency. Its vision is not simply to help people buy or lease buildings. Its vision is to create a unified data layer for the commercial real estate ecosystem. That distinction matters enormously because infrastructure businesses behave differently from transaction businesses. Transaction businesses rise and fall with market cycles. But infrastructure layers can compound in value over time as more participants connect into the network. And this is where the startup becomes interesting from an investor perspective. Chapter 4: From PropTech to DataTech. Traditionally, PropTech companies focus on improving real estate workflows. Things like listing platforms, leasing systems, or property management tools. But FunRaise seems to be moving towards something larger: a data connectivity hub. And once unified data exists, AI applications naturally begin to emerge on top of it. For example, market forecasting, price trend analysis, portfolio optimization, space planning, automated report generation for enterprise users. This is why I think the company may eventually sit somewhere between PropTech and DataTech. And honestly, this pattern is becoming increasingly common in the AI era. The companies attracting serious long-term capital are often not the ones building flashy AI demos. Instead, they are the companies controlling structured industry data. Because in practice, AI models become far more valuable when connected to proprietary workflows, proprietary context, and proprietary operational information. Chapter 5: Think first, AI second. One detail from FunRaise particularly stood out to me: their philosophy. Think first, AI second. I actually think this captures the next phase of the AI industry extremely well. Over the past few years, many companies approach AI as if the model itself were the entire strategy. But increasingly, investors are realizing something important. AI alone is not the moat. The moat is domain understanding. The moat is operational integration. The moat is data accumulation. And perhaps most importantly, the moat is human judgment. FunRaise describes its goal as cultivating high cognition talent. People who understand both technology and industry context deeply enough to apply AI meaningfully. That combination is difficult to build and difficult to replicate, which may explain why investors are paying attention. Chapter 6: Capital Returns to Fundamentals. Stepping back, I think FunRaise reflects a broader shift happening across the startup ecosystem. The era of generic AI excitement is gradually cooling, and capital is beginning to return toward fundamentals, real industry pain points, real operational inefficiencies, real data advantages, real domain expertise. In Taiwan especially, this may create interesting opportunities because Taiwan has many industries that are operationally sophisticated but still digitally fragmented. Commercial real estate is one example, but there are many others. Manufacturing, logistics, healthcare, financial services, and perhaps the next generation of successful Taiwanese startups will not emerge from chasing trends. They may emerge from quietly organizing the invisible data infrastructure underneath traditional industries. Closing? So in the end, I don't think the FunRaise story is really about real estate. I think it's about how investors increasingly view data itself as infrastructure. And in the AI era, the companies that control fragmented industry intelligence may become some of the most valuable platforms of all. Thank you for listening to Taiwan Tech Dispatch. If you enjoyed this episode, you can also find my writing and deeper analysis through my LinkedIn newsletter and Substack publication. You can follow me on LinkedIn, X, and Substack under the name White Shoe. And if this podcast helped you better understand Taiwan's technology ecosystem and startup landscape, please consider subscribing and sharing the show. I'm White Shoe, and I'll see you in the next episode of Taiwan Tech Dispatch.